According to what we have, the government circles, is that the growth rate of the economy of this country would be about 6% annually. It's a very ambitious projection based on what assumption, I do not know. But then realistically, the projection probably should be between 3 and 4% annual rate of our annual growth rate. Any country's development or the growth of country's development is really based on its budget. How has our budget tried to address inflation in this country in order to improve the standards of our people? How are we doing with the cost of living so that people can live and lead respectable life? How much is food security, not to talk of food sovereignty, food security, how much is food security available to us? Are we food secure? Now, how much are we fighting against corruption? These are issues that really, or some of the issues that really impinge on the economy of any country. Now, if you look at our large budgetary allocations and see whether we as a nation are really moving in the right direction, whether we as a nation really controlling of our economy in the right direction in order to attain the projection by government of 6%, and by government, and we probably believe that should be 3 to 4%. I think the experts, some of our experts here, will attest to the fact that there is a report that the economies of most of the countries will, their growth will be sluggish, and in fact, some of them it will contract. And these are very resourceful countries, countries which are endowed with enormous resources. With us, we are not endowed with any resources, and what our budget shows is that instead of investing in areas that will advance the growth of the economy, we are investing in areas that are not in any way advancing the growth of the economy. The allocations attest to this. President's office, you have $1 billion. Minister of Foreign Affairs, about 1.9 billion, about 2 billion in fact. Finance, 2 billion. The centralized services, 1.6 billion. And centralized services are really supposed to take care of expenditures for lubricants, petrol, fuel, and so forth, as well as purchase of vehicles. But instead of this being part of these centralized services, you have 300 million, or approximately 300 million allocated for fuel and lubricants, 800 million allocated for purchase of vehicles. And these are not the productive sectors of the country. Now you take agriculture, 95 million. Uh, Fisheries, 56 million. Now, you take the allocations in agriculture, fisheries, youth and sport, and tourism, they are less than the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And these are the productive sectors of the country. The total allocation to these four important sectors is about 1.1 billion, whereas for Ministry of Foreign Affairs, or 1.9, for finance, 2.2, about $2 billion. And indeed, any country that really wants its economy to grow, you invest in the productive sectors of the country. And for us, tourism is certainly one of the key agents for growing the economy of this country. Agriculture is the principal agent for growing agriculture for growing economy in this country. Fisheries also is a sector energize and promote and increase the economy of this country. But of course, this government has really lost its priorities. Instead, we're saying allocations to areas that are non-productive. Apart from the misprioritization of the uh, resources of this country, and I want to say resources, I mean the finances of this country, is the very deep-seated corruption in this country. We've seen that government is engaged in a lot of road constructions, and these are the areas where corruption is really embedded, because the the contract prices are inflated, and they are not only inflated, but sometimes also you do have substandard work. If not substandard work, delayed work. Now, when the president visited the Faraba campus, he found that the work was far below the period. I mean, was not, the work was certainly not being done in accordance with the schedule, and he expressed his disappointment. But that is all we had. I'm sure that contract must have a clause when there is delay, what happens on the part of the party who caused the delay. Why is that not invoked? Should the president just say that, look, okay, we reschedule it, and then within that rescheduled period, we see it completed, so that the now rescheduled period time would be December this year. But I am surmising that the president didn't take the drastic action that is needed, because things must have happened in the past. Compromised. When any leader is compromised, or when uh, the government is compromised in any way, these are the type of behaviors, these are the type of reactions that we do have. I think any serious government would definitely have summoned immediately the contractors to State House, and President should not just stop at expressing a disappointment, but should also tell the Gambian people what directives he has given for this contract to be completed, not by December, but within a period of 12 months. Because so disappointment was expressed, because the installmental payments that probably due to the contractors must have all been fully met. If they were not met, there would have been no queries by the government for delays. But this is the type of things that happen. These are the results of compromised governments. These are the results uh, on things on the part of of a compromised government. The, uh, we learned last week, we learned recently that the Minister of Finance signed a loan of $2 billion in December. Now, we are complaining, we are crying that there's already 118 billion dollars loan that the Gambia has to pay. And to pay that, we are using $11 billion for for the debt services. And I'm sure you all agree with me that $11 million is injected in agriculture will really do well for this country, will do well for our economy, and do well for our food security. Now, my calculation with the 1.8 billion, with 118 billion plus this, that's 20 billion. I have absolutely no doubt that if there is proper auditing of the activities and transactions carried by this government, we will find that there are several hidden loans that have not been disclosed to the people of this country. They are sitting on them because uh, they do not want to expose how much damage they have done to this country. Of course, we've seen across the border what has happened. Since the change of government, some areas of government activities were audited, and it was discovered that several billion francs, CFA francs, or euros, were hidden debts. They were never disclosed by the government. And the same thing, I can tell you, is probably happening in this country. Now, the and I wonder why the Minister of Finance has not really disclosed this this loan. Uh, for all I know, it was not indicated in the budget speech. I don't know if you are following. It was not mentioned in the budget speech, and I believe the budget speech really uh, carries everything, or should carry everything that affects the economy of our country, and certainly these $2 billion would drastically affect the economy of this country, because it's going to add up to our national debts, and it's also going to increase our debt service portfolio. So this should be made known to Gambians. But all these allocations and the development projects that have been initiated, and the projections are based on what? As I've said, we are not a country endowed with resources. We have our agriculture, we have our fisheries, and we have our tourism. We are not as endowed as Nigeria or even Senegal, because now that Senegal has gas and oil, they have been endowed with resources, and even other countries that are grappling with their uh, with some sort of crisis uh, are not and are the ones that's really uh, can boast of the fact that all their activities are being financed from their resources. Now, these projections are based on what? Our growth is based on what? On loans. And we are not even sure whether the loans that you may anticipate that you would get, you may not get it. Then you anticipate getting $5 billion in loans, and it ends up being 3 billion or 2 billion. Grants may also not may not also all be uh, realized, and of course taxes also. And the taxes are also based on projections that so much will be collected into taxes, and all this added up together is what is taken to as an assumption to project our economic growth. And these assumptions, which really do not uh, uh, do not rhyme in with reality. The corruption that we've been talking about, we find it in appointments, we find it in promotions, we find it manifesting itself in other ways. Now, what we have been faced with is our national assets have been gradually sold. And now when I say sold, I say so uh, with great caution. An asset that is given away for 30 years, and what you benefit from it is just 20%, and the rest 80% goes to whom you call your partner. That is as good as selling, because for 30 years, when you don't have any control over your assets, that is as good as selling them. The bridge, which is also mortgage, although this year is recycled, is also virtually giving away $100 million for a period of 15 years. We are giving it away. It does not enough to the benefit of the country. And you know what? We are having promises of having new roads. And what is happening is Afrimex Bank is providing the loan, is providing the money. GRA is not a government. So GRA itself cannot take a loan. So what they are doing is to pass this through the central bank. And then, of course, they issue bonds for this to be put in the market, in the financial market, in order to raise, I think it's about 75 million. I'm not too sure about that, about $75 million. So you can see how manipulative the government is. It's GRA that is the beneficiary. GRA cannot take a loan. GRA cannot take a loan. So use government institution to take it, and then you have a bank here through which they will do the exchange of the dollars, the fixed rates and so forth. And all these are avenues